Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Creative Hustle Podcast. We are so excited to bring to you another local maker today. We have Jenn with us from Twig and Feather, and we are just going to get right into it. All the goods, ins, and outs about being a maker, owning your own business, and just what it's all about here in Halifax. So let's get after it. So, Jenn, why don't tell us a little bit about yourself and like how you got into this whole game of entrepreneurship.
So I guess I'll rewind about 10 years. So I graduated from Dal with a Bachelor in Commerce, and I worked in marketing for a year. And it just wasn't my jam. So I decided to go back to school for fashion design. So I went down to California and I studied clothing design. I majored in knitwear design in LA at the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising down there.
Wild.
And then I worked down there. So I worked at BCBG, which I'm sure everybody is familiar with because they used to have a store here. I worked there for, 3.5-ish years. I was associate designer there, helping out with their sweaters. And then I moved over to a smaller company local to LA and surrounding area called Planet Blue. And she had like 2 in-house labels, and she was also like a boutique, so she would also buy from other labels. So I managed her 2 in-house labels, which was, they were both experiences were invaluable. Like the contacts that I made at BCBG, I still use today. And then the experience that I got at Planet Blue, managing like the smaller lines, I feel like really helped me because I got to do everything. Whereas at BCBG, it was more like siloed, like just design kind of thing. But at Planet Blue, I did, everything, whereas like going downtown, sourcing fabric to dropping off at the factory, which is like really applicable to how I have to manage Twig and Feather. And then my husband is in oil and gas. So when we got married, I decided to move closer to him. So he was working in Alberta and BC. And so we moved to just outside of Calgary. And I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
Like just coming out of like
different
other than like New York, coming out of the epicenter of like fashion design and all the jobs at my fingertips and stuff to not being able to work for anybody. So I decided to start my own thing. So I initially started with a line called Rainy Sunday. Okay. And that was kind of like a higher priced line. So it was like a lot of cashmere and merino wools and stuff. And it was manufactured in California, all knitwear. But I wasn't super comfortable with the price point, but in the beginning and still now, like I'm by no means a big fish. I'm like the tiniest fish. So I still have to fight like tooth and nail even to get a factory or a manufacturer to work with me.
Okay.
So I always am fighting like the minimum battle. So in the beginning when I was manufacturing like 5 to 10, it was even of like a particular style, it was even more impossible to get somebody to work with me. So that's just how it was. And the price point was super high. They slap all these surcharges on you and stuff like that. So now I started with Rainy Sunday and it was great. But like I said, I wasn't super comfortable with the price point and where I wanted to be just personally with things. So I rebranded to Twig and Feather once I like started to get more momentum and get my feet wet. And then I was able to lower the price point to where it's closer to where it's at now.
That's cool. And by price point, you mean like for the consumer?
Yes.
Yeah.
And wholesale wise too.
Right.
Yeah.
Just like so the overall operating expenses.
So just for a little, sorry.
No.
So just for like a little background, I do wholesale to boutiques.
Okay.
And then I also have my branded website where I sell direct to consumer. Cool. Yeah. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite the story.
Yeah.
And then through all of this, you became a mom.
That's right. So I have Maddox, who's 4.5. He'll be 5 in June. And then May, who is, she just turned 2 in January.
What brought you back to Halifax?
My husband and I are both originally from here. So I grew up in Dartmouth. Yeah. And he grew up in Sambro, Acres Road, which is just outside of Sambro. And we met, he was going to St. Mary's and I was going to Dal.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
very cool. So I guess backtracking a bit, when you were like leaving your marketing job and you got your commerce degree, was it scary like going back to school for something like fashion? Like did people think you were crazy?
Yes, everybody did. And I always say now that, like, if I were to do that now, being like older and wiser, I was 21 when I did that, and just like completely naive to what it all meant, really.
What's to come.
So I just kind of like jumped in and did it, and I was thankful I did it then, rather than waiting until now, because I would completely hesitate now. Like, just the fact that I did it, I was like, what were you thinking? Like, I'm even like, you're crazy, looking back at the 21-year-old self that did that. But I mean, it's I think I honestly, whether it would have been going to California to go to school, or NASCAD, or Ryerson, or any university college for clothing design, like, it's literally an extension of myself. Like, I would have ended up there somehow, like, whether it was now, whether it was 20 years from now, whether it was before that. So I'm quite confident I would have ended up in the same place. Yeah. However, whatever path I would have chose. But yeah, to go to California when you're 21, I mean, it is super scary.
Sounds like so much fun, though.
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. Yeah, definitely. I don't regret it.
Yeah. And what were some of the kind of trials and tribulations of bringing your brand, especially here to Halifax, where, you know, fashion isn't always appreciated by the masses like it would be in California and New York?
Yeah. Well, I mean, with Twig and Feather, I don't reinvent the wheel. Like, I am not a John Galliano, like, walking down the runway kind of a look. I'm like your everyday, you know, just throw on your comfy sweater, but look stylish, you know, that kind of a vibe for my brand. But with my business, like, I'm based here in Halifax, but it really is across the country, across North America, because my wholesale accounts, especially, they're all over the place, like right from coast to coast into the United States. Like, I have my showroom in LA that sells on, like, they have the collection there seasonally, and they sell on my behalf to accounts that they have contacts with.
So cool.
So yeah, so like, I'm based here, and I will say a lot of my direct to customer base is here, and especially in Canada. I rarely send things to the States. It does happen. But my main order base for direct to customer is definitely here. But like I said, I'm not reinventing the wheel. Like, I just feel like I really pay attention to the fit, to the fabric. I just want to make like a quality product that you can wear every day.
Totally. And I find people around here are always looking for that comfy type of wear.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that's why it works.
Yeah.
Here,
Totally.
right? Like, I'm
totally.
not...
Fashion is different.
Yeah, so, and I don't strive to be like I said, I don't reinvent the wheel with it. I just want a quality product that I can stand behind, and that I'm confident people can, like, machine wash, wear it with their kids, be comfortable, you know, like, it's not like a crazy design. So yeah.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we've asked your Instagram community what they wanted to know about you, or what they wanted to hear about you. And a lot of people were talking and asking you, I think, about balance and what does your typical day look like being a creative, a maker, a mom, a business owner. Can you kind of give us a rundown of how you do it?
Well, yeah, I'm like internally laughing now because I don't balance.
Does anybody though?
No, like, I'm legit a hot mess basically every day. But I do find that when I began, I was basically working. Well, you're never at work, but you're always working. So like, it's really hard. There's no line in the sand. Like, you're like, for me, my office is in my home, my inventory is in my home, like, everything is just there. So like, you walk by and you're like, I have like 45 things on my to-do list. Like, let me just, you know, sneak in there and just like,
dabble in.
Yeah. But I mean, with kids, it's easier because you can't do that, right? Like, when I have them both at home, it's impossible. I can't work. So, but in terms of balance, like my regular work week, so Maddox is in preschool and for the mornings for 4 days a week, and May is in home daycare for 6 hours when my husband's home. So he works rotationally, which is the added layer of craziness. So he's away 3 weeks and home 3 weeks at a time. But anyway, so I have basically to fit my 40-hour work week into 6 or 9 hours. And then like I work in the evenings, or if I'm like on a real deadline, I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and work, which is generally where you'll find me. Just so I can just, work and feel good about my day, and that I accomplished what I needed to. But when it comes to certain things, like when I'm packing up website orders. The kids are there. They're cutting the tape. They're building the boxes.
That's awesome.
They're, peeling the stickers off the envelopes and all that. So they do help me a lot. And like, if I have to run to Pure later, they're in the car with me. Yeah. They're doing it. But yeah, so I don't really have the answer to that one. Like I don't balance it. But I do try and keep my weekends, especially when Jamie's home. And I try to keep that as like family time so that there is like that balance where, I try to turn it off as much as I can. But yeah, but the getting up early in the morning really helps me. And like, I'm lucky enough my kids do sleep in, they're not up at 5 with me. So I do get that time in the morning, and then the O to the office kind of stuff, like things like this, or, if I've got a bunch of packages to ship that's literally too much for me to carry with the 2 kids, then I'll try and do that when they're at daycare and stuff. So I just, I try my hardest to do what I can, but I'm constantly multitasking. Like I'll be on a conference call and I'll be cleaning out maize bottles, and that's just how it is. So,
Cool. I love that. I mean, I don't think anyone has the right answer. I think you just figure it out for yourself, what works. Yeah. Those mornings can be really productive, though.
Yes.
Like, you can get so much done early in the morning when the rest of the world is sleeping.
Yeah.
I'm also beginning to think that work-life balance is a myth. Because it's like you just kind of go in blind every day and you try to get that work-life balance. Yeah. But do we honestly have like a set routine of work-life balance? As entrepreneurs, probably not.
And there's not like a written rule. It's like, this is how you balance your work life. Like it just doesn't work like that.
That 9 to 5. Just like is.
I actually like envy people who have, I always say like real jobs, because I'm like, you get to go to work and like your kids are in daycare and you get that steady paycheck, but like for me it's the line is so muddied. There is no line.
But can you imagine doing that? Can you imagine like if you had to go to work from 9 to 5,
and
like
going to your little cubicle?
How like crushed would your soul be?
Oh yeah. I mean, and like I look at my life and I'm like, I do get to spend so much more time with my kids than the average mom. Yeah. So there's definitely a lot of benefits to be able to do it. But like, when the workload gets crazy and then the kids are sick and it's like, it all happens at the same time. But anyway.
I have a question. So living in Halifax with a lot of it seems like industry connections are across the world. They're not as local as, what some of ours might be. Do you ever get lonely? Like how have you built a community around your business?
Well, I try and connect with people. They're not like they wouldn't work for me, but they're in a similar industry. So like people that are doing the same thing as me, and they're kind of like my lifeline, my sounding board, and things like everybody's business is completely different.
It really is.
But at least as there's there are a lot of makers in Halifax, and like I'm also in that kind of category B where I'm not a maker because I don't make it. I have manufacturers, but they're doing the same marketing and selling and online inventory management and stuff like that as me. So, so there's a lot of similarities from my business to a maker's business. But I always like to say I can't take credit for actually making it because I do not make it. Yeah.
So I'm curious, and I know a lot of our listeners are curious to know more about your design process.
Totally.
Tell us a little bit about
so
that.
I design 2 collections per year, a fall and a spring. So fall, over the last 3 to 5 years, I've been focused on just sweaters. Okay. So when I design sweaters, I start with the yarn. And when I start with the yarn, I always keep in mind who's wearing it. So they need to be able to launder it.
Yeah.
And like personally, if it's a dry clean only thing, I'm like...
Don't even bother.
Yeah, it's not happening. Never mind.
I love you for that.
Yeah. So I start with the yarn, and then I usually try and, I try not to focus too much on trends because I find that, number one, the actual, like if you want to get to the actual epicenter of the trend setters, like the subscriptions to those trend magazines and stuff are so expensive. They're way to my budget.
Interesting.
So I try to, be mindful of colors. But I feel like with my style, the basic like camel, charcoal, black, light gray, and I try to throw in like a few pop colors, like a mustard or like this fall for fall 2019, I did a mulberry, which is like kind of like a a more pinky color. So like that's out of my comfort zone for me. But yeah, so I generally just try to stick to what works, and I look to past seasons and try and figure out, well, why did that one sell so well? Was it the stitch? Was it the color? Was it the overall style, the overall feel? So I always look backwards before I look forwards. And then once I get the yarns nailed down, and also it depends what my factories are offering as well as options. So I buy products full package. So I'm not buying yarn from China and shipping it to Peru and then they're using that. I think trying to reduce my carbon footprint, I just try to do locally sourced everything. So this year is my first year. So fall 2019, I'm using a Peruvian factory. So they source a local Peruvian cotton blend for me, which is really nice. It's machine wash cold and you can just hang it to dry. And I find the cottons are, number one, they're vegan. And they're a natural fiber other than, the alpaca and the wools and stuff that are dried clean only. And then if there's a good stock color list, I can never meet the minimums for like custom colors. So once I get the yarn nailed down, then I look to the trends to see what's going on in terms of like, I know sweaters are generally paired with denim. So denim waists are getting higher. Thank God for all us moms out there. So their waistlines are getting higher. So like, it's okay to do a bit of a shorter, look, but like, the longer ones are always a classic too. So you try and figure out what's going on with denim in the bottoms, and then what would it look good with on the top with a sweater or a t-shirt. And then so the yarn, the trends, and then the stitches. Also I work with my factory to see what their specialties are. I don't want to push them, outside of their comfort zone. I want to leverage what they're best at. Right. So like Peru is really good at the ropes and the cables and the textured stitches, which is great for me because I love that stuff. So that's kind of where the collection went for fall 2019. So there's the classic colors, and then I did the mulberry and the mustard, and the stitches are really textured. And then I just brought back some of my best sellers and, updated them, modified them a little bit.
So cool.
And then, so this year, right now, just a couple of months ago, I launched my first, full-blown spring line. So I did T-shirts and tunics, like a T-shirt weight, not an actual sweater weight.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
And they're made locally here in Halifax.
Oh, how nice.
And they're all in eco-friendly fabrics, so like the bamboo and organic cotton.
Amazing.
So, I usually start, like I said, with the yarn or the fabric, and then it kind of transitions into what the style is going to be. And I always just, like I said, I don't claim to reinvent the wheel when it comes to fashion, but I try to be really mindful of the fit and what's flattering for all body types. I always try to have a few styles that are good for the more petite, shorter ladies, and then mindful of the taller or, wider hips, wider chests, things like that. So I try to incorporate, something that would work for everybody.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Another question that we got is, how do you stay motivated?
That one is actually a pretty easy question because it's like my juice. Like I can't stop.
Good.
So
I love that answer.
Yeah. I just, there's no way whenever I'm like, oh, you got rejected again or whatever, I just I cleanse it. It's okay, because I do get, for every 25 rejection emails that I get or lost sales leads on Instagram, or somebody decides not to pick up that t-shirt that they were talking to me about, it's okay. Maybe I'll get them next time, or 5 times down the road I'll get them, or, but literally at my core, there's no way I couldn't do some version of this, whatever it looked like. I could be, knitting headbands myself, or I could be, sketching at home and not making anything off of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's literally, it has to happen for me as a person. I just, over the years, I've realized this, it really truly makes me happy. So I have to do it. There's no question.
Yeah.
So motivation's really easy for me.
It just comes.
Yeah, it just comes. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I was just wondering what the fashion and design community is like in Halifax, because it's not one we often hear about.
Is it inclusive?
Yeah.
Is it friendly? Is it competitive? What are your thoughts?
Well, I would start to say it's small.
It's small.
Yeah. So there's a lot of really great boutiques here.
Yes, you're right.
So Savon Agricola is one of my favorites, and they're always super supportive of Twig and Feather, and they always order, which is lovely. And our partnership has grown. You know, I'll come in for pop-ups and stuff with them, which I always love to do. So when you meet somebody like Sarah who owns Sava, you just kind of like latch on with all that you can, because she is inclusive and lovely. And
I planned Sarah's wedding.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, in the Hydro Market.
Yeah. So, you know, she's great. And then there's, you know, for her, I'm just mentioning her, but like there is a big community. Right. So like with Atlantic Fashion Week and Angela Campagnoni, like she's also super inclusive. And I've met so many other people that have businesses similar to mine through that. And even, you know, photographers and stuff, everybody is super supportive. And I always try to support back by like, I never ask for like free work, you know, like if I want to work with a photographer, like somehow everybody's getting something out of it, you know? So including the models, the makeup artists, you know, all of that. I don't believe in, you know, give, take kind of thing. So, you know, and if we can all grow together in the photography, what you guys do with the video stuff, you know, like if we can all just kind of grow the creative industry as a whole and not just specifically for fashion and apparel, I feel like it's better for everybody.
Brilliant.
Totally.
I love that answer. Well, thank you so much. Oh my goodness. I'm like so inspired right now. This is such a great way to start a Tuesday morning.
It's like our Monday today.
So where can everyone find you? They can find you on Instagram. They can find you.
Yeah, so Twig and Feather with two G's.
With two G's.
Yeah. So on Instagram, and then my website is twigandfeather.com.
And locally we can go to...
Yeah, Sava. And actually Suit Yourself in the Brewery Market has just picked up a few styles too. But yeah, Sava would be the main one.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Well, that's it for today's episode of the Creative Hustle Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you're enjoying listening, we would appreciate if you would subscribe to the Creative Hustle Podcast on iTunes or SoundCloud. Hit us up on Instagram. Tell us what you want to hear in our coming episodes, and we'll keep you posted. Keep hustling.